Hi, my name is Jim Rose. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Maryland. Question for the day: what is trauma? Here's the simple answer, and it's a pretty good one. It is anything that overwhelms you. In particular, it is anything that overwhelms your emotional system. It's one of those things where you're sort of thrown into a situation that's unlike anything you've ever encountered before. You don't know what to do with it. It's very troubling. It's very painful. And here's the bad news: it stays with you. Trauma lives in the body. It is not just in your head. If anybody ever tells you that it's all in your head, you have my permission to call bullshit on them, because it's not. It lives in your body and you feel it in your gut. Trauma will pop up at unexpected moments. Let me give you a simple example. A person was sexually molested as a child. They're an adult. They get into a sexual relationship. And at the opportune moment, or the inopportune moment, all these feelings come rushing back into them. It's like a volcano erupting inside, and they don't know what to do with them. All of a sudden, they're not an adult in an adult relationship. They're back to being a little kid who's being taken advantage of. And those feelings have lived inside for years, maybe even for decades. They literally get stuck in the body. If I can give you an analogy, it's a little bit like gophers. Gophers live underground. Every now and then, they'll pop their head up, usually when you least expect it. And that's what it's like. Let me give you another analogy for trauma. Trauma is like living in an apartment building with a faulty fire alarm system. That fire alarm goes off at least once a week, but you never know when, you never know what day, you never know what time. It's just that every now and then, damn fire alarm goes off. You don't know if the fire alarm is real or not. All you know is the fire alarm is going off and you got to get the hell out of the building. As it turns out, most of the alarms are false alarms. Most of the time there was not any real danger. Doesn't matter. Your body reacted as if you were in real danger. You felt all this stuff coming up in your gut, and you knew you had to run for your life. If you can relate to that analogy, then there's a really good chance that you are carrying trauma within you. When the traumatic event, if it was a single event, occurred, you probably didn't talk to anybody about it. You might have tried, but that doesn't mean that the people around you knew how to take it. They knew how to understand. They knew how to help you process it. It's quite likely that they didn't. And because you couldn't really talk this thing through soon after it happened, it stayed stuck within you. It's quite possible that you have had nightmares about it. It'll just keep coming up in all these troubling ways. I want to give another analogy. Trauma is a little bit like hemophilia. You know what hemophilia is? It's the disease where people do not have a clotting agent in their blood, so that when they get cut, the blood does not stop bleeding. And because of that, even a simple cut can be potentially fatal to a person with hemophilia. Being traumatized is like that. When the emotions arise, when the problems come up, it feels like you're emotionally bleeding all over the place, and you probably don't know how to make it stop. If you're like a lot of people, you might have figured out that the only way to make this thing stop is to get good and drunk, or maybe to shoot up your favorite drug. They will help you get those feelings under control. in the moment, but they're not a long-term solution. It's quite possible that if you have trauma, that it has interfered with your relationships. The reason is because when you have a trauma response to something in the present moment, you leave the present moment. You're back in the past. Something in the present has triggered this feeling that's been stuck inside of you. And you are back in being the position of being the traumatized child. You are suffering again what you suffered sometime in the past and never fully, completely processed it. People will look at you and say, you're overreacting. Well, it's quite likely that you are overreacting to the situation in the moment. What they don't get and can't get is that you're actually reacting not to the situation in the moment, but to the recalled experience from the past that you've never processed and that still lives within you. I want to be really clear. Trauma is devastating. Trauma is tough stuff. My work focuses on helping people get relief from their trauma. The good news is that there are things that can help. It's not necessarily quick, it's not necessarily immediate, but these painful emotions that you may have been carrying around within you for years or decades can be relieved. So, if you're interested, I invite you to watch more of my videos, and if you live in Maryland, contact me and let's see if we can help.